Tarot Tuesday. Thought I'd have some teachings for you all. So one of the things that I've done as one of the mentors and teachers here is I teach classes on tarot, obviously. And I did one on the High Arcana. And what I wanted to focus on today, because I want to try to give you guys a nice broad stroke of information that you can use when working with your deck at home. I'm going to go into a teaching about the aces. So they relate to the 4 elements. Okay, so let's start with Pentacles. So Pentacles relates to Earth. Now, sometimes in your decks, this will be called coins. And I actually pulled from 2 decks, right? Just to show how that same energy can be expressed differently in different artistic renditions of it. So both of these are an Ace of Pentacles. Both cards, you can super see how Earth is highlighted. In the Steampunk deck, they're looking at the metallics that we would mine from the Earth is how that element is showing up in this card. Gold, preciousness. And the Earth element, esoterically, also connects to our earthly things we like. So I always think of that like delicious food and things we like to buy, creature comforts. So a lot of times the suit of Pentacles will be talking about our creature comforts, right? More kind of mundane things. And I don't even like using the word mundane because let's face it, we're not going to be diving into our higher needs and evolving as human beings if we're not fed and warm and sheltered. I'm going to go back to this Ace of Pentacles and how you still get that earthy element. I really love this deck. I love how it looks like a medicine wheel, and it also looks like a dream catcher to me. And it's the inside of a tree with all the rings and that seed right in the middle. So aces they're also about new beginnings, right? They're the first card in that suit. At the start, I was talking how the suits in our tarot decks actually correspond to like the deck of cards I play solitaire and cribbage with. So the pentacles are diamonds. Makes sense, right? The shape and everything. So if you were to start looking at some of the energies around a deck of cards in your house, if you don't have a tarot deck, you can start reading even just with your cribbage deck. Okay, sip of coffee. So the next suit I have on top here is the Ace of Cups. Okay. So again, I've got both decks. So cups are about water, right? The element of water. And this is an easy one to make sense of because we hold things in cups, typically liquid, right? We put liquid in cups. And the element of water relates to our emotions, right? Because our emotions flow like water, like waves, they come in and out. When we emote, when I'm happy, I cry, and when I'm sad, I cry. There's lots of water in my world all the time. And actually, I've spent a lot of time on the water, right? And on the beach and paddling and stuff. And there is a real vibration when you're out there and you're surrounded by water. So the other Ace of Cups from my other deck is this one. And in pretty much every deck I'm thinking about, with the ace, the water is usually overflowing, right? In this one, it's more subtle, like it's the magic is coming up and out. You've definitely got a change of color at the top here. And this one's very much the flowy fountain. So the beginning of water. So what could that be meaning in a spread, right? If we look at the meanings behind it. So it can mean a new love, but because everyone's always asking about love. But it could also mean new creativity, right? A new, not a new emotion, but a new way of emotionally relating can sometimes be, your Ace of Cups can come through as it, depending on what your person's asking or what you're asking about yourself. And I find too, almost all the time, an ace is about things getting less chaotic and less tumultuous in life, because they're full of hope and newness. They're like a brand new seed of something. Okay, so cups emotion relates to, in your traditional deck, your cribbage deck, it relates to hearts, which makes sense, right? Emotions, love, cups, hearts. Now we have swords. And it's kind of interesting because in most decks I've ever read, the sword is always up too in the ace. I've never seen one sideways. I've never seen one down. And I've always kind of felt like that's kind of interesting. So, and swords relate to the element of air. And you can see that more in this one. A lot of times when you are looking at tarot decks, the Ace of Sword will be a sword against a blue background or against a sky background. There's clouds around it to represent that element of air. This one's got lightning and storm because it's a very dramatic deck. The steampunk deck is not in, oh, it's got a bit of glare, is not in the sky, but again, you can see that electricity, right? So, and this whole deck's kind of neat because it doesn't have a lot of the traditional stuff. It has a cool, nifty spin on the traditional stuff. So you still have that element of lightning, even though it's electric lightning instead of like cloud lightning. So swords are air, and the element of air, it is also creativity, but it's a different style of creativity. And it took me a long time to understand this in the tarot. So the Ace of Swords is like a new way of thinking of things. A new breeze blowing in. And it's almost like that breeze just like clears your mind of past things and takes them behind you. It can be a new idea. It can be a new, but it's really innovative. It's not like the creativity that is expressed through water, which is more about taking what's inside our heart chakra and in our deep feeling places and putting it into the world. With the element of air, it's about taking that electricity, those sparks that happen in our mind, and making them real. So you're looking at energies of architects and Thomas Edison style energy, where you're just innovating and thinking. A lot of very creative thinkers, our culture doesn't quite, took me a long time to wrap my head around, because I would be reading for IT people, and they would get all these creative cards, and they're like, yeah, but I can't draw. I can't do that stuff. So air is creative. It's our imagination. It's our thought processes. It's our mind. So there is a creativity that we don't, we often don't recognize as creative. They think outside of the box, right? And what I'm hearing from Spirit too is to also think about the element of air when you're dealing with neurodiverse people, because there is a very creative aspect to how neurodiverse minds express. And it's, thank you, friend. That's a beautiful teaching. Whoa. Just the idea of all the ways that we can be expressive with our minds, all the different kinds of creativities. And I feel like I feel a message coming through, so I'm just going to babble it out, okay? I feel a teaching coming through, so here it comes. I really feel like we are heading into a space in our culture, in our schools. Oh, definitely in our schools, because we're in September, that makes sense. Where we're going to unbox a lot of our ideas around what our minds can and cannot do. That's very cool. I'm just going to leave that with you guys, okay? So just side message come in around this year. Oh, and not just in our school systems, thank you, friend, but also within our the way we do our work, because people are starting to go, the world's starting to open up. People are starting to go back to work. People are starting to do other things. So look for that. Look for that air energy in it. Is Wands. Now, Wands makes perfect sense if you're thinking about our regular playing deck, that they correspond to clubs, because clubs and wood are both made, clubs and wands are both made out of wood. So here we have the first one again. So we've got a beautiful stick. A lot of times in the wands, the rod will be blooming in the ace. Again, it's that new energy, that seed bursting open energy, that innovative energy. And wands correspond to fire. I think because wood can be set on fire, so that it's always how I remember that association. And in the steampunk deck, this is one of the only cards that shows a bunch of life on it. So it is still blooming. It's like it's a rod, but it's been cast in metal, but it is blooming, and it has all those candles to represent the fire. And so fire often is very transformative, and sometimes isn't gentle in the way it transforms. It can be, but it's often quite hot. It's a hot way of transforming. And how earlier I was saying that whenever I see aces, I know that someone's energy is really shifting. Someone's energy is really, some newness is coming. If things have been tumultuous, things are calming down. It always seems to be like a calming energy in someone's spread. That's true even with the fiery energy of wands. It is transformative, but it's not bursting into flames. It's like a smoldering, right? Because it's a new fire, not a forest fire, a new fire. So a smoldering flame, and it's transforming. And so when you start getting aces of wands coming in, you're looking for your clients that the energy of change that's around them is going to be much more digestible. With is it does correspond a lot to our day-to-day muggle life as well, because it can be our businesses. The element of fire is often how it's I'm trying to find the words, loves. It's how we project out into the world, right? Because even though we're projecting our ideas with the element of air, it's still in us, where fire is much more of an external kind of energy. I don't know why, it just kind of is. So it has to do with our businesses, the way we make our living, okay? It's similar to the Ace of Pentacles in that this is about creature comforts. This is about how we go about earning those creature comforts, okay? So even within your elements, you've got two very external, pentacles and wands, and two very internal elements, our heart and our mind, right? So pentacles are the environment around us. Wands are how we affect and act in that environment, how we think inside ourselves and how we feel inside of ourselves. And it all ends up being really balanced, right? Between the different elements. They have the way they complement each other. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that is my Tarot Tuesday teaching about the aces and the elements of our tarot deck.